What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of our interview show here, Coffee with Khaldor. And today we're going to have a guest that is talking a lot about toxicity. We're going to talk to Mopsio today. Now, of course, we're going to also focus on his career as a pro gamer, how he ended up as a professional Heroes of the Storm player, and a bit about his personal journey. But at the same time, a big topic with Mopsio is, of course, his past as a pretty toxic player that even led to him being banned for an entire weekend out of HGC and forced his team to play with a sub that was at the beginning of 2018. And today we're going to focus a bit on his story, because he really turned himself around quite a lot and is now approaching the game very differently and is trying to just get all of that in check. And we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the tools that Heroes of the Storm currently uses to battle toxic players, what he thinks about them, how he personally achieved his goal of becoming more of an asset to his team, and also for play in Hero League in solo queue compared to his previous behavior. So without further ado, we're going to jump right in there together with Mopsio. Alright, so welcome Mopsio to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, but it's hot outside.
Yeah, Europe and the heat wave. I mean, California is not really too cold either, but I guess Europe currently is burning up. But I heard that you guys had a pretty good time getting the visas for California, so now that you are qualified for the Western Clash, and I heard you got a bit of a funny story with that.
Well, that was a funny story. Like normally when you go and go to the visa process, you have an interview with console, and you just go and talk about like why you go there and stuff like that. But I had a special letter. I just showed the letter, and the console was like, "Oh, you play Blizzard games? What kind of game are you playing?" I said that I'm playing Heroes of the Storm. He said that he's playing Hearthstone and a little bit of Heroes of the Storm, but like he knows what is this game about. So instead of having a classic interview, we've been talking about AGC and the league and the tournament and the in California as well.
That's actually pretty amazing. I had like similar stuff happening at the dentist here in California, actually. But I mean, you kind of expect it here since Blizzard is just local, but that you actually have it at like a government facility, that's pretty sweet, especially when it comes to visas. So yeah, good start for that, and good start for you guys for the tournament. We're going to talk about that in a bit, and I also want to talk with you a lot about toxicity and your personal journey in that regard. But before we're going to jump deep into that, tell me a little bit more about you, and especially how you became a pro gamer, how you started with gaming, and when you started to make that leap into an esports career.
My life story is a little bit like different than most other people, because like I come up from a very small village, and I always wanted to be a chef. But my mom forbid me to go to the cooking school, and I was forced to go to the high school. And in high school I had a lot of time. And since I've always been playing games, I found out that there is a League of Legends tournament and there are Polish people playing in it. And I got interested into the esports. It kind of became my passion. I was trying to be pro in League, but unfortunately, even though I was a challenger player, I was not good enough to play in the highest level possible. And then a friend of mine introduced me to Heroes. He said, "Dude, it's going to be an amazing game. You have to play this out." And once I touched Heroes, I never left.
And your mom was okay with you becoming a pro gamer, but not with you becoming a chef? She doesn't like food?
No, she wasn't. No.
Okay.
I had to move out because
okay.
There was a lot of let's say toxic words coming out of her mouth when I was talking about my dreams and stuff.
Okay.
And I said that I have to isolate from this, and I just like moved out. And I said that as much as I love you, I can't listen to you anymore. I have to leave and try to pursue my dream while I still was studying. So I was studying and playing the games at the same time. But once I got the first results, I said, okay, I give myself a 1 year. I quit studies for at least 1 year. And then I just focus fully on playing the computer games.
So you give up a lot for that, actually, and I would assume that it puts also a lot on pressure on you to have success, especially when you say you try that for 1 year, you have to achieve some success in that year, right? Did it make it difficult for you?
I personally don't think so, because since I am since I went to the studies I didn't enjoy, I didn't feel like it's a sacrifice. I always felt like I can always follow up my uncle career or path, like call it however you want. Like when he was at age of 18, he just moved out to the UK and he was working there in the cooking industry as well. And I always thought, I always had it behind my back that if I fail, I can always either go back to study and say at least I tried, or I can just go and become a chef. Fortunately, I started being good, and then I started making money with coaching in League of Legends and stuff. And then when I moved to HOTS, I kind of instantly hopped into like the highest level of play possible.
I actually wanted to talk about you cooking a bit later in the interview because I know that it's a passion of yours, but I didn't realize that it was such a big dream of you to become a chef when you were a kid, and that it's still, and that's where it all stems from. So now that you are big, like I assume that you're still living alone from what you talked about earlier, and you're now a pro gamer. You are going to the Western Clash in California, so I know going to one of the international tournaments again. And at the same time, I see you post pictures about like the food that you cook on social media like all the time. So you basically are living both of your dreams at the same time now.
Yes, of course. I even have something planned for today. Delicious.
All right, like. I just had breakfast, so I'm still good. I'm not too hungry yet, so let me know. Like I think I can stomach for now.
I'm going to make a caramelized chicken breast with peanut butter sauce and with rocket salads.
God, I hate you.
I'm gonna post it on Twitter the day we're talking.
All right, fair enough. So yeah, I'm gonna look forward to that. But let's talk about this for a little bit more for a second. Is that a thing that you pursue more than just a passion right now? Are you taking any cooking lessons? Are you having plans of maybe becoming a chef or like getting at least the educational part? So in case esports doesn't work out in the long run, you can fall back on that? Or is that currently just something that you do in your free time where you try to improve on your own?
Well, the most important part is like I usually cook for my friends when I cook. When I just sit alone, I don't usually cook for myself because it's when you're a pro gamer, you don't have much time. You have a three-hour scrim block into 1 hour break into 3-hour scrim block. So getting like good food and such a short amount of time is basically giving you not enough time to rest. So I'm kind of lazy when it comes to the like season and stuff. But once I meet up with my friends, we just spend a lot of time. We prepare a really good stuff. And we are here to like nurture people. But like other than that, I just love cooking and I love eating as well. Like I think in my family, not many people have a talent to cook, and I usually ate bland stuff. And I was like, I can make it better. I was just starting doing that. And the funny story is like right now, when it comes to like Christmas or the family events, I'm the main chef, and usually in Polish families, it's like the grandmother, mother. Yeah. And that kind of order. And in my family, it's me, and then the grandmother and mother, and that kind of order. I am just right now the leader when it comes to food in my family as well. I just love food. Like that's what I can say. Like eating is very important for everything you do.
It's actually so funny to me that you talk about you being lazy when you cook. I mean, when I cook, I make oatmeal. That's basically what it looks like. So I'm completely helpless there. So you're describing that, oh yeah, I don't make my caramel peanut butter chicken every single day. I only make it every second. And then calling yourself lazy is interesting. But you talked about family events, and I mean earlier you mentioned that when you started to become a pro gamer, you had problems with your family in the sense that they didn't really think that what you were doing was worth pursuing. But you were talking about family events now and how you are actually the chef there. So I assume that that relationship has improved since then. And is that something that is more accepted now too, now that you are having that success, or is it still a bit of a point of contention?
I mean, I find it kind of silly because I kinda don't feel like I don't really like the appreciation I have right now from my family, because I think when you are a parent or a grandparent, the first thing you gotta do is to help and support your kid as much as you can. I'm talking about the mental support mostly, and since I was usually the guy which was trying to be like like the others, and I wanted to go through my own path. I usually don't talk about what I'm doing, about the tournaments and stuff. I usually try to dodge that kind of subjects, and I just like talk about everything but that.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of get that. Like, I had a couple of things in my own family where it was always easier to talk about different things and not going into like the tricky subjects because you knew that would lead to a lot of like trouble and usually arguments. So I get that for sure. But let's talk a little bit about your improvement as a player, because the one thing that really impressed me with you is that just 2 years ago, I remember that casting your games in amateur league play and in some of the tournament qualifiers. In the tank role, we oftentimes criticized you as being someone who was just way too aggressive in the style of play, felt very forced to make plays, maybe with that pressure on his shoulders. And you came a long way since then. You're a more experienced player right now. You have a lot better game sense and you read games much, much better than you did in the past. Talk to me a little bit how that development came to pass and how you made these big improvements as a player.
The first thing which I think about is like when I qualified to AGC, and when I qualified to AGC, I just wanted to like be the best in my role. I always wanted to be the best in my role, but I think personally I always focus to micromanage people. And looking at that right now, I think is the biggest mistake I was doing in every single team I used to play with, even in the first phase of AGC. The moment when I started getting a little bit more egoistic and focusing on my own play and saying, okay, guys, like we just can rotate wars, we can just have a little bit of worse team play, because I didn't want to be forever the guy which is liability for a team. I wanted to be the guy which is not only the brain, but also the guy which delivers the mechanical plays as well. And the biggest improvement I can see in my gameplay is the moment when ADRD joined the team, because he helped me a lot with understanding. I was thinking that I'm a good player like when he joined, but he proved me wrong many times, and I was like, okay, I'm still shit at the game. I need to there's a lot of points I need to improve on. I took those points. I tried to do it in Hero League, even though it cost me a lot of points in Hero League as well. But since Hero League is just a mechanical practice for a professional player, I didn't care about my Hero League rank. And I was just starting getting better and better. And I think, I don't want to sound too cocky, but I think that right now I'm in a top tier tank in Europe.
Do you have
at this level?
So, did you have any example of what ADRD told you to improve on, where you thought, okay, I'm great here, I'm a really great player in that regard, and where he pointed something out where you said, okay, I didn't realize that this is something that I need to improve on?
First of all, it's patience. Patience, I wasn't patient enough. I was always thinking like, if I don't do a play, we do a mistake. And the more I started realizing, thanks to talks we had together, the more I started realizing that I'm here to do my job, not to do 1v9. I finally started playing better and better because I stopped inting at some point, which usually was the case. Like usually teams were waiting for me to just overstep, to do the random engage, and then I got punished for that.
Yeah.
And right now I don't see this being a case anymore, but I might be wrong.
No, I actually think you hit it pretty much on the head, because as I mentioned, 2 years ago, that was often the case that you would go a bit too deep and teams were waiting for you to make a mistake and then punishing you. So it's pretty cool to hear that. You mentioned ADRD in the past, and you talked about it being like a Jedi Master and a Padawan relationship. Talk to me a bit more about that. Like, how exactly did that manifest itself? How often do you guys talk, and how is the relationship like now that you're on different teams?
So since ADRD left, we talk like once or twice a week at least. We usually talk about food, because he's living in Cyprus. He has access to a lot of fresh food, fresh fish.
Don't tell me he's a chef too.
No, he's not.
Okay.
He actually sucks at cooking. And he usually asks me. He actually asks me for advice if we're talking about food. But like I was always jelly of like, dude, you have a fresh fish. I would love to cook a fresh salmon instead of like the one we get in Polish supermarkets, you know. And like we also talk about a game. We also talk about like the small things, like how he feels the scene is looking like. How do I feel like about the players? Like we just like we have a really good colleague relationship, and I really like it because like I already thought we have some connection in the game when we played with Zealots. I think that our synergy was like on point, crazy on point in most of the games we played, especially with Diablo and Medivh. And I like that this synergy went through the real life as well. Like even now, we've been talking about like, oh, dude, how are we going to take the travel to USA? Are we going to like have a direct flight from one airport and to book up the seats next to each other? I find it really amazing.
Do you actually talk about games that you have within HGC? Let's say, for example, you guys have an important match coming up, or you had a tough time the week before and you had a loss. Do you sometimes ask him for advice and ask him to just look over a few things and tell you maybe where he thinks you could improve or what you could do better? Or is that now something where you don't go that deep into detail now that you are, so to say, competitors?
I don't think we go that deep into that. We normally talk about that kind of stuff, but we don't go into the details. Like the funny comment he did when we won against Fnatic, he literally wrote to me after the series, "CNNA," and
All right.
I just find it like really good and supportive that like I know there is a person which appreciates my play.
You talked also about how you learned a lot playing with him on the same team and that you could bring things to leftovers to improve them. And I mean, at this point, you actually leftovers, a team that was in the Crucible just the last season, is now all of a sudden attending one of the offline events in HGC. Tell me a little bit about what you brought to leftovers that they were missing at the point and how it felt, or how you guys are forming a union now, like how that team feels at this point.
So I brought a couple of points when I was joining to Leftovers, and I wanted to work about that like point by point, and I think we can improve that a little bit. Like beginning with rotations, like Leftovers rotation before I joined, even during the tryouts, just sucked.
Yeah.
The people were not on point. The people didn't know when to take trade, when to push the wave, when to just ignore, when to go to bush. The people didn't know that like if you don't have anything to do, get out to the fog of war, or I'm going to be upset. And like we literally had to go through those tough moments, especially in the beginning, because like they didn't have the guy which has the experience to beat the better teams. And since ADRD joined, we got this experience. We almost won the Western Clash. We almost qualified for mid-season pro, and Zealots with ADRD suddenly became like a powerhouse in Europe. Everybody had to respect. And I just find like those kind of things, like about patience, about rotation, about communication. I just found a couple of those points which were very important to make the average team into the top tier team. Because let's be honest, like whenever ADRD runs a team, this team is going to be very good over time.
Yeah,
it was the same thing with experts.
Yeah, so sorry I interrupted you, but I just wanted to highlight a point there. Whenever he's on a team, that team a few months later is doing extremely well. And I mean, you basically are doing a similar thing now with leftovers. You talked about rotations, and it's something that a lot of people criticize when they made their way into HGC, that they would fall behind in experience just simply because they didn't rotate fast enough into waves, got interrupted, lost the experience on lane, and then fell behind. So that was the main goal of you, to try and improve the macro play of the team, or was there anything else that you felt needed to be addressed?
Another point in which we needed to improve drastically, in my opinion, was the communication part. I still think I'm not quite satisfied with how our communication is going, but it's way better than when I joined the Leftovers, especially that Linked and DAB were the shy guys, which are not providing the information I was asking for initially. And we just did put some effort into that. I was pointing out a lot of stuff I want in information from my support player and from my range assassin player, because as long as Podibos and Black Kitten's communication is fine. Like, I didn't know sometimes what to do, because in my opinion, everybody should have a straight up role in the team. So let's talk about Diaby, by example. He is the range assassin, so he knows the limit of his hero. He knows when he can deliver damage, he knows who he can hit, and he knows that if he needs more space to do something in particular compositions, because I'm just a shot caller and a tank main, but I'm not alpha and omega. I don't know everything about the game. I'm still learning from my teammates as well. But the most important part when you go to the competitive heroes is that the communication has to be on point, and everybody needs a role inside of the team. So we just look like a very good machine instead of having just like the guy which tries to micromanage people, etc.
You're also not the drafter for your team, right? If I'm correct, that's Black Kidney still, or did that change?
We are sharing the drafting.
Okay.
I sometimes see the things Black Kidney doesn't see, and I give a feedback. And the most important part is like I'm picking a tank for myself.
Okay.
Because that's a fun fact. I think he will be upset if I talk about it, but I will give it a try. Like, I was usually complaining when he was picking me a tank, because in my opinion he was giving me a very bad tanks for particular compositions, and I was pretty open about that, but I was also talking about that and the team environment, and we just came up to the conclusion that like he just says that we want to pick a tank right now, and I pick my hero. So we don't. So whenever you see leftovers drafting and the tank is being picked, it's always my choice.
Okay. Yeah, it makes kind of sense. Like, oftentimes there's like the discussion that, especially with the shot caller, is oftentimes said to be more effective in the tank position because he's the one who engages. There were teams that tried to make that fit in the support role, and it didn't quite work out the way that most people were trying to. I mean, there's a couple of examples to the contrary, but as a general rule of thumb. And oftentimes it was one of those ideas that the shot caller has to be involved in the drafting as well, because you're trying to talk about, okay, how does that composition engage into the opponent and how does it play there? So the communication that you talk about there is actually super important, and it's really interesting how you, Black Kidney, and the others share that part. And that leads us a little bit to a topic that I really wanted to discuss with you in depth, because you're talking a lot about communication. And that was probably where you made your biggest improvement over the past, I would say, 1.5, 2 years. Because when Heroes came out and when the competitive scene started involved, you were actually known as a pretty toxic player. And toxicity is something that is heavily discussed these days. And you made a massive, massive change on that account. And I just want to know, first of all, what triggered that change? What was that moment when you said, okay, the way that I'm approaching the game and that I'm reacting to people, being it either in competitive or in Hero League, doesn't work out anymore? And how you went about changing that? I mean, there's a lot we have to dive into, but maybe just let's start at that point.
So initially, like, I wanted to start with just a message towards the community that I don't basically think there is a single person which is toxic by his own will. Like, I think the being a toxicity from even on my example came up from something I'm working about right now with therapists, with psychologists. It's something which was caused by the way I was raised, by the environment I was into, by the traumas, etc. Like, I don't really want to go into deep with that, but I just want to say that like this is something which caused the toxicity, especially in the beginning of a scene when I basically did a lot of fuck ups and probably did a lot of mistakes as well. I'm still far from the person I want to be, because I still have my moments when I'm getting like upset over something too much and when I just overreact about something. But I'm putting as much effort as I can to make sure that nobody is getting upset. But other than that, I also think that Heroes of the Storm scene is super delicate in that kind of sentence. Yeah. That sometimes just a bad wording can cause that somebody can be upset and not talk about and not talk or just upset on you for a long time. And I don't want to defend myself because, of course, like everything just started when I joined the game. I was a douchebag, and I sometimes I'm getting upset, but I'm using the tools to work over my anger management, because that's how it's called apparently. At least that's what I was told it's called, and I'm just working on that. Very, very, very like the thing which is difficult for me is that I'm like a very emotional person. Like when I feel the hype, like I felt in Western Clash, I can perform extremely good. But when I'm upset, like it hits me and my performance as well, and even sometimes the way I behave. But like the main act of change began and it was a phase 2 in 2017 when I joined with Cells. It was a week 7th. Well, I was still behaving bad, but I think people just respected me because I was bringing a lot to the team. I was drafting, I was shot calling, and I just got to respect in this way, not in the way how the people should relate. But like I just did it like the thing which was on Reddit. Like I just went AFK. I just like literally lost the game to my team in Hero League, and it went on Reddit. And then a lot of other things I've done was on Reddit as well, thanks to that topic, and I got banned. And sitting there and watching my team play without me like made me feel miserable. Like it's not a thing I want everybody to have, that you're just sitting like being helpless. And my team was playing the series versus playing decks, and if we would lose this series, we would most likely go Crucible from the team, which was very safe from Crucible, let's be honest. And of course, like I had a lot of stress outside of the game as well in this phase, because I got sued by my father to pay them monthly alimony. And of course, I didn't want to do that but it's something super personal, so I don't really want to go into that. But I didn't want to do it because I don't think he deserves jack shit from me.
That usually works the other way around, as far as I know.
It works, and he wasn't supporting me in this way when my parents got divorced, etc.
Okay.
But when the child is over 18 years old in Poland, the parent can sue the child for to make child paying alimony into the parent.
Okay.
I know it sounds crazy.
You had a lot on your plate at that time.
And it was like I just went through the depression, and also it was causing me behaving bad as well. And I just decided to look for help because it was too much for me at some point, like, especially the ban part, and like that I cannot do what I'm doing. And if I do that again, if I fuck something up again, go against code of conduct. So if I just do something on purpose again, I might lose my job, my dream job. Which I was fighting for like many months. And basically that's how I looked for help, and I'm just working a little bit less when it's season because there is not much time, but whereas the off season I put way more work and more effort into visiting the therapist, etc.
Okay, let me just first of all, I mean, thanks so much for being this open about it. That's actually like really impressive, and I guess everyone acknowledges that you made insane improvements in the past. But there's definitely something like what triggered, for example, that like how did you go about like even going to a therapist? Because for Americans, it's something that's a lot more common, but at least within Europe, there's still a bit of a stigma around searching out a therapist in the first place. So that's one of those things where I was actually very impressed when I heard it for the first time that you made that step, because I didn't really expect that. So what made you take that step? Did you talk to friends about it? Was it something that you yourself said, I need this, or how did that come to pass?
Well, I have really good friends in Krakow, and they I was talking with them that I'm fucking some things up and I might be out of a job and it's probably my fault. And they suggested me to take the step, and they said something like that it's going to only help me. That it's never, and since it's I want to say word free because it's like I'm just missing the word at this point because I pay the taxes and then
Oh, you get medical
insurance.
care
Yes, it's an insurance. Since it's covered by insurance, it's like it can't. Like the only thing I can do is to waste a couple of hours of my lifetime, but if I don't do it, I might eventually lose my job. So I want to say thanks to my friends that like they pushed me a little bit forward to do that. But it's something. It was going back on my head, especially after the sue and the court case process. I was like, it's too tough for one person to handle at this moment.
How much would you say did it help you? I mean, that's obviously an effect. Everyone can see that in your behavior over the past time. But what we don't see is, of course, how it affects you as a person, and also how, let's say, it affects your personal life. So, how much of help was that?
Well, like just from the way I take stress right now as something. Usually, stress was something which was causing me to do the bad decisions in game and outside of the game as well. I think right now it came up also with experience, but stress is something I'm earning from. Like by just an example, like just I used to be a land choker. Like when it came, like, even though I was a really good online player, when it came up to the offline event, I was like inting and causing my team to lose the games, like for example at Gamescom 2016, and it was making me upset. And right now, when I feel about the way I approach right now the series, and not only the series but also the offline event right now, I'm super hyped instead of being scared and just I don't know how to speak about it, but like it just helped me to go step by step. And as I already stated, I still think I have a lot of things to improve, and when it comes to the bad moments in my life, I might even sometimes be back with like my bad habits, but I'm just putting my work and effort to make sure it doesn't happen, at least in Hero League, but also in the team environment.
I mean, watching a lot of streams, like the one thing that's definitely still true, I would say, is that you still get emotional about games, but you're just having a way better way of dealing with those emotions. Is there any kind of advice you can give to, let's say, toxic players out there that realize for themselves that it's something that is triggered maybe by frustration when they're like in the game, when things are not working out the way that they intend? Is there anything that you say is a first step into the right direction where you can give some advice?
Well, the best advice I would give to the players, if you're just going through some like emotions in a game, just disable chat, because like chatting never helps. Even if you criticize somebody, it never helps. And even if you're right about something, people might not admit that they're wrong. So like just don't use chat, people. Like if you just feel upset about a game, if you just get emotional over the game, just don't use chat, because I think using chat is like the first mistake people can do, especially the emotional people. Because Hero League, especially for us professionals, is just a place to practice mechanics, to improve mechanically. We are not here to win games. We are just here to play the game. But of course, if I'm playing the tank in Hero League and if my teammates are not doing that good, then of course I'm going to be upset. I sometimes just, if I'm like very upset, I sometimes like ping somebody. I feel bad about that, but like ping is something you can mute. Like if somebody feels offended about my ping, sometimes it's just like just mute my pings, and I think that's the way we should approach this as a community as well. But I also have a stress ball. I have it in here. Like this is a stress ball I'm using, and I just squeeze it when I'm tilted, and it helps a lot as well. Like for example, I'm dead. The team fight which went badly. I'm just taking a stress ball and I'm just like squeezing that. So it helps me to release the negative energy I have. Not fully, but at least it helps.
So, how many stress balls did you go through already? Is that
No,
still
one
the
only.
first? Didn't destroy
This
it
is a
yet?
pretty good one.
Okay.
This is a pretty good one. And I don't know, like I even throw this sometimes and I throw it on the wall and it comes back and it's like super, it's like from titanium maybe, I don't know. But it's very, very good one.
So one of the things that I still remember is that I feel, as far as I remember, even before you went to go and get professional help and get a therapist, you already started to turn off chat because back then Blizzard introduced the silence to accounts and then you couldn't play Hero League anymore. And I remember that back in that time, you still received silences against your account because you already had built up a reputation within the community where people would just report you even though you didn't even talk. You didn't do anything within the games and they would still report you for it. And you appealed a lot of those additional silences that you got and they got removed from Blizzard where they acknowledged that. That's still a big topic today right now, actually, more so than ever, where a lot of people saying, hey, I got a silence because even though I do have my chat not turned on. So what do you think about the entire system around toxicity that we currently have in Heroes of the Storm? Do you think this is the correct approach to take, and or do you think there could be improvements? One big idea, of course, that has been floating around for a long time from other games too, is that you not only should be able to report people in order to punish them, but at the same time also commend people that do well. Is that something that you think would help the game, or what's your current thoughts on the entire way that Heroes of the Storm and Blizzard are dealing with toxicity?
So like I got silenced so many times. It's actually like more than 8 times for sure. It was a time when I qualified to AGC and I was like spamming the game because I wanted to get better. And I was just getting silenced like at least once per week. Like I don't like the way to have an automatic punishment.
Just to come back to that for a second, you got silenced once a week while having your chat off, right?
Yes. Okay. I didn't use chat. Like the moment when I qualified, I was like, okay, if I use chat, I would make sure I felt inside that I will just make a mistake one day and I will just get punished for that. And like I don't think it's worth it. So I just stopped using chat. I decided to communicate only with pings because pings are also the system which is implemented. And I was getting punished. I was sometimes getting deceived from lobby and getting -600 and quick matches as well, which was like a triggering part as well. And also when I was writing appellations, some of the GMs did also reply to me like instantly with just like a copy paste appeal, a copy paste scheme they're using, and it was making me upset sometimes as well because like if I'm just saying, okay, look, I didn't use chat, check my chat logs, and please, if I did something, just point it out, and I'm fine with the punishment. And then I was just getting copy paste message, and then I just had to like spam the tickets unless I had a person which really checked it. Of course, the previous people were getting like complaints on. Because I think if you're here to do the job, just do the job then, instead of just copy paste the answer. And I was just getting really upset because I don't think automatic punishment system works in any game. There is no such thing like automatic punishment system anymore. Like for example, let's talk about the games with like bigger player bases, like League of Legends. Right now, even if you are trolling every single game, but you didn't write a single word in the chat, you don't get your chat restricted in League of Legends, even if you're like playing a bad game. But back in the days, people were just like saying, okay, Mopsio, I hate this guy is a cunt, I'm gonna report him because he will say something. Like I remember the situation on Bad Bunny stream, even like I bet Bad Bunny Bad Bunny remembers that somebody in an enemy team wrote, report Mopsio because he will flame his teammates. Somebody in the enemy team did it. It was on stream. I believe they clipped it, but I would need to search for a clip. I believed somebody clipped it, unless of course Benny removed the clip. So then I cannot do it.
Yeah.
But the situations like that were so common with my person, and of course you have a right to be upset at me, but I was just getting punished by automatic report system instead of. I understand that automatic reports are needed because hiring so many people to punish people or to review the case is too much. But for example, let's say I go and I get as many reports as needed to punish me. I think somebody needs to actually check this out, because I don't know, like right now, and as I said, like I sometimes play League just occasionally for fun with friends, and in order to get punished in League right now, you really have to do something against the code of conduct. And I wish Heroes of the Storm at this particular stage would be the same. I didn't get silenced for a while, so maybe it's working like that. But at this, like, I just had an only negative experience. Like, God bless, there was some people in customer service which were like checking me out and like even laughing at the reports, like the description of the report. Like, I got reported, for example, I even have a screenshot of the conversation. I got reported for being Polish, you know. I got reported but for abusive chat by being Polish, even though I didn't use chat. And like the GMs had a lot of fun probably reviewing my case when they were actually doing it, because this is actually like I'm just a big hater of an automatic punishment system.
I can tell. I mean, yeah, sorry.
Because I was the victim of that system so many times. I never complained about getting punished when I was actually flaming people, when I was using chat, when I was abusive, when I was a douchebag. I never complained about it. I was like, okay, that's my bad. I got sentenced for 4 months in 2016, and I said, this is my bad. I have to live with that consequence of that. But the moment when I actually try to like make an improvement, and then I get this, I was getting this. I don't get it anymore. God bless. I was actually triggered, and I when I'm reading Reddit, there is a lot of situations in which people have to have their cases reviewed by Reddit, because there was a guy called Improbius, and his Reddit thread was very popular, and suddenly somebody from Blizzard saw his message, reviewed the case, and there was a Blizzard response in the ticket as well that, look, dude, you didn't do anything wrong. You're just playing the game. Just because you're bad, we should not punish you because you're not doing it intentionally, you know? Like, it's okay, because let's be honest, like the placement system in which people get master from like opening the package of chips, you know, just like a lottery, there is maybe not a lot of, but there is a kind of a pool of players which are in the ranks by accident, and it's not their fault that they are just playing bad, because they normally deserve the lower rank, so they need to lose some games. But in order to lose some games, they will actually like be playing bad. They will be getting punished by enemy team, and then they suddenly get banned. And then even the GMs are like copy pasting the Overwatch forms. Like, oh, you got silenced in Overwatch because you did this, but I don't even have Overwatch in my account. How can I get silenced for being Overwatch? Like, what?
It seems like you had a lot of fun with the reporting system. But actually, this is really interesting to me, because you just described how you try to change your behavior. You accepted in the past that you got silenced for a reason. Then you turn off chat and you go to therapy. You realize that you have an anger problem and you want to become better as a professional player and add more value to your teams. So you go through that entire process. How much do you think did it even hurt you? Because I can only imagine from your point of view, you're making the decision to change, you're taking active steps to do that, and then all of a sudden, the entire time, you're still getting silenced because of that stigma that is around you. Did that at any point frustrate you to an extent where you thought about just stopping to improving because you felt that it was pointless?
Not really. I'm usually very against, like, for example, during my AMA session, somebody accused me of intentionally losing the game, and saying that I even have a replay of this game, and saying that I was like toxic when I literally went through the replay. I even replied to the guy, and I proved to him, like, first of all, I did a mistake. I rotated slowly. That's my mistake. I apologize for that. But like, I just don't like the random gossips people are saying that, oh, Mopsio's throwing the game, oh, Mopsio's probably flaming somebody. No, I'm not. Like, just
difficult is it for you to get rid of that stigma? Because I've seen you write on Reddit a lot and reply to people, and the one thing that I appreciate with that a lot is that you are taking a very calm approach to it. Like every time I see you answer to one of those comments, you're usually just really trying to explain to the person, listen, this is something that I definitely was guilty of in the past. I changed a lot since then. If you have something where you can prove that with a chat log or anything, then please show me, because I want to know if I do something wrong here. But how difficult is it for you to get rid of that stigma? I think a lot of people change their opinion about you, but it seems that it's very tough to get rid of it completely, correct?
Well, it will go with me for probably the rest of my career, like the Toxio meme as well. But I have to accept it at some point. And here I want to give a huge props to Fabian from Blizzard, because he taught me the way how I should reply to the people. Because when I read this kind of message, I obviously get upset. I'm a human being. I can have my worst days as well, even though I try to not have. But Fabian actually told me to always ask for proof. And as long as there is no proof, there is no guilt. There is only a gossip, which I will always defend myself, that if I really lose the game on purpose, not by doing a mistake, because I'm a human being as well. I'm not a robot. I am doing mistakes in a game. I lose the games for my teams in Hero League as well. And I don't do that on purpose anymore. I just do it because, for example, I'm just playing bad. I'm just having a bad day in game. Everybody can have a bad day. Dignitas have a bad day, and we beat them with Zealots. We didn't win because we were better. We won because Dignitas had a bad day back in the week 5 on the league play. And everybody can, I'm just doing that, and I accept the fact that I'm doing that. I accept the fact that I'm as everyone is, but I always ask for proof. If there is an undeniable proof that I really throw the game, that was my bad that I throw the game, or that I really abused somebody after the punishment, of course, because somebody might have a very old screens, but I'm talking about a situation. I'm just trying to kind of cut off my image from what I was doing before the ban to what is right now. And if somebody can prove that a screenshot is legit, and for example, let's say from the last 6 months, then I'm like, okay, I will request for punish because I think I deserve it. But if I just do something like that in public, and if I don't do anything, and if I just keep hearing the accusations, I will always defend myself. It doesn't matter if it's right or not.
Do you feel that in general, when we're looking at the community in Heroes in particular right now, there's always, it feels to me that the bar for toxicity is getting lowered constantly right now. Obviously, at this point, it's a huge topic, not only on Twitter, but also when you're looking towards Reddit. It feels over the last 2-3 weeks, there isn't a day where there are not 5-6 threads about it, where there's a huge discussion. But especially in games, it feels like when you're reading chat or when you're communicating with people, anything gets called out as toxicity. And I feel like a year or two ago, people reacted way more to insults, whereas these days, even negativity in any way gets immediately called out as that. Do you think that the bar is getting lowered, or do you just think it's still the same?
Well, I don't want to make it sound controversial, but I'm just a big hater of just overreacting over the stuff we are going through right now. Oh my god, this guy called me out that I play bad, or that I do a mistake, or just I play a bad build. Fuck this guy is toxic. I think word toxic is one of the most overused words which I know from English vocabulary and the internet. Because everything is toxic for people. Somebody says me a good job. Oh no, this guy's definitely smiling and saying that with irony. He's toxic. Somebody's saying, dude, can you please don't play Taunt, or please don't play Twin Blades when you play Varian? How dare you saying that I'm playing Twin Blade Varian and it's bad? It's toxic. And everybody just goes and does everything, and this word is the most overused word in the planet I've ever known. I would be always against breaching the rules. I would be always against insulting people. But if you are called out on something, don't try to make the reverse psychology with calling the guy toxic, because I believe that most of some of the people, I remember Crosby got silenced. It wasn't Twitter as well, on Reddit even, for giving constructive criticism to people. Like in the MOBA game, in the game in which we are bound to some teammates, there is a guy which tries to do like the good move. Dude, you should not do this and this. Try to be like less aggressive next game or whatever.
Do you actually...
And the guys come in and saying, this is toxic. No, I'm perfect, dude. Well, I'm perfect. Everything is toxic. I'm just perfect.
Do you think that voice chat can help with that, because it's easier to convey a mood and actually make it clear that you are trying to actually give advice? I know that in Europe, it's not so much in North America, but in Europe it's not used as much, and I think language barriers between countries might be part of the reason. But I think people could make more of an effort to get people together in voice chat, because what I see right now when I watch streams, for example, within the European region is a lot of people will complain that nobody enters voice chat, but they don't make the first step to enter it and to ask others to join so that they can communicate better. I know that from a streamer's perspective and a pro player's perspective, it might be a bit different. But do you feel that voice chat could be one of the tools that can help with toxicity, because it's easier to convey that you are serious about giving advice and that you are trying to have an actual dialogue with someone? Or do you feel it's just another tool that's gonna get abused in the long run?
Well, Heroes of Storm is a very dynamic game, and I'm trying to like make a point of having the voice chat in the game, but all in all, it's just a MOBA game.
Mm-hmm.
And solo queue is all about playing your own game and trying to cooperate with teammates. I know if in MMA, it's kind of like almost every single game has at least 3 people in voice. Doesn't matter about the rank.
Mm-hmm.
And Europe is not common at all to do that. But I actually understand European people. Like, there is a lot of people which are not comfortable with speaking English, or even like which don't understand English. And like just going through the voice chat might be more problematic for them, and might be even more misunderstood than it is when you read.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about those language barriers, all about those like people who not speak English on a basic level, which might just even more misunderstood what you mean, because that's how it is. Of course, NA is like very good in that kind of stuff, because it's their native language. Like if I would have a Polish players every single time, I would go with them on voice, and I would try to guide them or give them some feedback, because I would know that I cannot hurt them by accident.
Okay.
But here you can say something without the meaning of that. Like that's actually Mopsio special in the team environments. I can say something wrong. I can say something what I don't mean as wrong, and people might take it wrong, and then it's like suddenly I'm the one who's guilty, even though I didn't mean it. Of course, I apologize after that, but like it's all about like wording is very important.
Yeah,
that's the lesson I learned by my own, and that's something which might be very difficult to implement in Europe.
Yeah, it feels that oftentimes in chat when you read something, people give it the least charitable interpretation of how it can be interpreted. So instead of just assuming goodwill on the other side, it's immediately like an assumption that the person is either being sarcastic or snarky. So I see that actually a lot. And it's difficult to solve that in chat, I think. I want to come...
I think the most healthy way to approach Heroes of the Storm is just to use pings.
Yeah.
Just to ping your cooldowns, because you can do it. Ping where you are going. Ping where that you are going to, for example, solo wave, that you are going to defend the towers. Mm-hmm. Just use the pings, people. Like the pings are very good. Pings, we have so many specific pings. We have pings that this place is danger. So, for example, we see somebody going through my lane. I can ping to the guy on top lane and say, dude, you are in danger right now. You have to run.
Do you think the ping system could be improved? If there was any, like, you seem to be a really big proponent of turning chat off completely. You mentioned the problems with voice chat within Europe. North America is a bit different there. But from your point of view as a European player, do you think the ping system could be improved in a way that it makes it even better for you to use and adds more to the game?
Yes. more situational pings. Like, for example, we don't have the ping that somebody is missing on a map.
Mhm.
Or maybe we have, but I don't know. I might be wrong in this one. But for example, like we already have tons of pings. Like for example, we know that we can ping that. For example, I can ping that enemy team player number 1, 2, and 5 will respawn in 30 seconds.
Mhm.
So I just ping that those guys will respawn in 30 seconds, and I just spam ping go on boss. Assist me and the boss, and then suddenly people follow. Of course, it's nowhere close to the voice communication level of the synergy, but I always say the same thing. Hero League is all about you. Team League is all about playing good as a team. So as long as you play good, and as long as you try, you don't have to do it perfectly, you just have to try. You just have to give your best. I will always be up to not use either voice chat or even the normal chat in Hero League, because a lot of people are getting upset nowadays about everything. So better safe than sorry.
What do you like? You remember probably from alpha and beta times that we had a chat wheel. And one of the things that I personally really liked and that I would have loved in the game is a personalized chat wheel where, for example, you have 3 sentences that you can customize that you can put on hotkeys. So you could, for example, say, pre-prepare a sentence like, give up the objective, opponent has a talent advantage. You can ping some of that by now. But is that something that you feel would be helpful for the game, to reintroduce something where you can prepare 3 or 4 sentences that just apply to a lot of these situations where ping might not just quite do the trick, but so that you can communicate big macro rotations like, let's give up the objective, try and find something on the other side of the map? Or do you think that's already going a bit too deep and that the pings are basically covering most of it?
I personally feel that pings are covering a lot of stuff right now in Heroes of the Storm, and I'm just a big fan of this ping system. Okay. I think the only game which has a slightly better system is Dota, but just the pings are too good for the game.
Yeah.
And it costs you nothing. It just costs you to press Alt.
Okay.
To press Alt and the mouse, that you are, for example, coming or doing something. It just requires you to not spend anything of your energy. It gives you literally no room for error.
Okay, yeah. So pings to battle toxicity is basically what we're coming down to, and turn off chat. I want to move away from that topic for a moment. I want to actually go to something else that we touched upon at the beginning of the interview, and that's also what I kind of want to close with, because I don't think you actually gave me a proper answer for that. You talked about how you're currently looking into food a whole lot and how you're pursuing that passion. But I'm not quite sure if you answered the question earlier that it would be an option for you when you are done with your esports career. Let's just assume that at some point it doesn't work out anymore and you decide to move away from it. Hopefully, of course, we're going to have you with us for a long time. But if that's ever the case, is a career in becoming a chef something that you want to aspire to? Is that a different path for you right now? Or do you think that if esports doesn't work out in the long run, you would go down a different road?
Well, it's something I already gave a really serious thought about that, because you can't expect that you will just be an esports player forever, even though some of the people are breaking those kind of myths. For example, from CSGO player, the pro player base is really old compared to the other games. And I think it's very important to look at that into Heroes as well, because Heroes is less mechanical game, more the game about the experience, about to know how to play as a team and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I gave it a thought, and I was like, if I will I am saving the money when I'm playing the game just to make sure that I have a backup plan.
Mm-hmm.
And this backup plan is very easy, just going, because the food business in Poland is actually really, really cheap. So I wouldn't like to work there, but I would just go away, travel to the country I would like to spend more time to. And I would just go back for internships, or not even internships, but just working to wash the dishes, just to see how those people work, how just like in in pro gaming, basically, you have to start climbing from some point to get to this important point when you become a chef. I don't think cooking school is something what will be needed, because I'm learning from the YouTube a lot. There's a lot of tutorials, like for example, how to chop really fast. Like I did one in real live stream when I was cooking, and people were like, "Whoa, pork chop! You are chopping really fast," because I just took a vegetables and I turned it into like the diced vegetables in a matter of like minutes. So like the techniques is something you can practice in home, and I think this is going to be very important once I get some experience in the industry, and I can get the experience in the industry even while washing dishes. But at this moment, I focus on esports because esports is my biggest passion. Cooking is my second biggest passion.
I can already see you moving to ADRD, like with ADRD in Cyprus, so that you have finally access to fresh fish. But let's talk about esports a bit more for a second. How old are you now?
I'm 25.
Okay, so at this point, how long do you want to pursue, esports? What do you think is realistic as a pro gamer? I mean, we have with Hazops and others, Khaldor, for example, was just on an episode a week ago. Like, he already crossed 30 a while ago too, and he's now transitioning into a coach position. Do you think that coach would be something that you would be happy to pursue when you think, okay, maybe I can't make it as a player anymore because I can't fulfill the mechanical requirements? Or is that something where you say, like, no, as long as I'm in esports, I want to be a player?
That's another topic I gave a really huge thought about when I was like actually taking the steps into esports. And like my basic rule is very simple. As long as I'm good, I want to play. But if the better players will come, I want to use my leadership skills to develop the new players and be a coach. And I hope the coach industry also will be like developing as well, because right now it's not as good as it should be, in my opinion. Because being a coach right now is a very risky business. Yeah. But like if you speak about the other games right now, the bigger games which already can implement the coaching system, being a coach is a very good thing. And with my leadership experience, I believe that I will be able to make a very good players after I retire as a pro player. But since there is not many good new people coming to the scene, I don't think about taking a step back because, well, I still have some things to prove. I want to go BlizzCon.
Well, you guys are on a really good path with qualifying for the Western Clash already, and probably the most impressive team so far that we had in 2018 for sure. Mopsio, I want to thank you for the interview. We're extremely open, so thank you very much for that openness and sincerity. It's been a pleasure watching you grow over the past few years, and especially the success that you guys had with Leftovers now in Phase 2. I wish you all the best for the Western Clash. And yeah, if you have any final words, go for it. And if not, thank you very, very much for the interview. It was fantastic.
Thank you a lot. I really appreciate the time we spent together. I hope that will be good for the community to learn a bit about everything we've talked about here.
Thank you very much, guys, for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the interview. I was actually pretty impressed with how open he was about a lot of the things, especially when it came down to toxicity in the past. If you enjoyed the interview, make sure that you like the video and also, of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done that yet. In addition to that, I would again like to thank all of you that supported me or support me right now on Patreon. Thank you very much for that, and it really, really helps me quite a lot, and it's also a bit of a motivational boost to see that there's such an interest for those videos, because I was questioning a lot if there is enough of a demand for making regular interviews on this level with players. So seeing all of that support come in is really something that helps a lot. So I want to just say that I appreciate it a lot. Thank you all very much for that. Thanks for watching the video, and I see you guys next week with another one of the Coffee with Khaldor episodes. Have a good week. Enjoy your weekend. Bye-bye.